Survival FPS games have always been my favorite type of video game. Unfortunately, in 2022, we haven't seen any significant titles released in this genre. Surviving in an open-world sandbox game does indeed take quite some effort to be developed. Since this is quite a niche scene, it is very difficult for smaller development studios to create new unique updates to keep their player base interested. Even in some cases, the development studio unfortunately has no other choice but to disband their game due to financial troubles, seen recently with the zombie survival game Miscreated. Most of these studios are indie game developers, and with much respect to them, it's quite a leap of faith you have to take in order to make it in this business. 2022 hasn't seen any crazy FPS releases at all. Besides the recent release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, some of the larger titles in the FPS genre has seen their recent games completely flop shortly after release. I don't have to mention them, but you probably know who I'm referring to. So probably it is safe to say that most gaming studios really have to scratch behind their ear and think things through very carefully before releasing something new to their audience. Although there has been one gaming studio in this genre that secretly and consistently managed to make their game better and better. The game I'm talking about might not really come as a surprise to some of you, is DayZ. The game is almost 9 years old by the end of this year, but recently saw one of its largest updates released to this date. DayZ has been mocked in the past for its poor development, and several years ago, people believed that this game will end up abandoned by the developers. Most of the old audience of DayZ consisted of players that played the Arma 2 DayZ mod and later shifted over to the standalone version. They pictured a game that would be much better than the mod they loved, so obviously they had quite high expectations. The development of DayZ has actually been quite a roller coaster. Within the early stage of development, a ton of bugs were in the game, which sometimes made it even unplayable. However, some of these bugs were actually kind of funny, and some of them are really fake. But 2022 so far has seen 3 updates, starting off the year with 1.16 being released in February. In this update, the Bison SMG was introduced along with the alarm clock. 2 months later, DayZ received its second update, 1.17. This update brought some of DayZ's early release guns back into the game. Weapons like the P1 pistol and the Longhorn were now reintroduced. Along with that, another bolt action rifle was added to the game, and a new craftable weapon, the Spear, made its way back into DayZ as well. At the start of the summer, 1.18 was rolled out. This update literally came in with a bang. In this update, players could now find more explosive weapons and also gave them the possibility to create their self-made explosive devices. Of course, with all these explosive weapons, there was a little bit of controversy, but it was good to see that the developers managed to balance out the game quite well. It now became much more challenging to raid bases on official servers, as the development team increased the wall durability of player bases. Also, the Tiny Derringer, which was previously removed from the game, now saw its reintroduction, along with some other cool items added to DayZ. As mentioned before, recently DayZ received its largest update. 1.19 has seen some major changes to the game. One of the most outstanding ones is the introduction of the Humvee, a new vehicle. Not only that, Livonia, which is the official DLC created by the DayZ's developers, has seen some major map changes since its release in 2019. With this recent patch, players can now explore a massive underground bunker full of high-tier military loot. This really gives a unique experience, as you first have to find a cart that can spawn randomly or found on police officer zombies in order to make your way into the bunker. This tight bunker has a unique atmosphere to it and can create some intense close quarter action. It is safe to say that the DayZ developers are on the right track with pushing more and more updates. The updates are well received by the community, and taking a look at the player stats, DayZ had some quite good months with more and more players making their way into the wasteland. In a previous video, I discussed how DayZ saved itself from dying, as the game's player base was almost 10 times smaller in late 2018. The game now actually feels really smooth and is no longer laggy or jittery as it was before. Major bugs have been ironed out and it feels like a completely different game than it used to be. In its latest update, the character's movement speed has been adjusted, which makes it more realistic than the arcadey style and look it had before. With this change, the gap in player versus player skill has now been significantly decreased, and the Call of Duty kids can no longer zigzag their way onto you and blast you in the face. With all these new updates, there is one thing that makes this game really stand out from all the other shooter games in my opinion: the adrenaline rush. Now, I've played quite a variety of shooter games, but DayZ always manages to increase my heart rate when that bullet zooms by. In no other game I've ever experienced it. It's perhaps due to the extreme random moments you encounter other players that gives you a split decision to either greet them friendly or go in for an attack. Most of the time you spend up looting and exploring the map on a relaxed pace, and when you suddenly get shot at, you sort of go into a fight or flight mode.
Bandage! Too late! Yes.
Because once your character is dead, you will spawn randomly back on the various spawn points on the coast with little to no gear. Thus, after all this time of looting up, you want to be extra cautious. The only other game that comes close to this experience most likely is Escape from Tarkov. For PC players, there is the option to play on community modded servers. Some of these servers have new maps created by the community, and several maps on PC are released quite frequently. So the development of the game goes hand in hand with the contribution from some of its modders. However, the learning curve of DayZ is quite steep. As a new player, you might find yourself struggling in the first couple of days to find food or to even locate yourself on the map. The game doesn't come with a tutorial phase, so you most likely end up looking for guides on YouTube. Wink wink. In regards to the future of DayZ, something we might see very soon is the possibility to fly helicopters. This is not only available on modded servers on PC, but it's probably being worked on behind the scenes. Or perhaps we can play with hundreds of players on the massive DayZ maps in the future. With that being said, I do believe the video is getting quite lengthy now, but I'm really happy and excited to see where DayZ is headed. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leave a like because it does help out the channel grow. I thank you for the interest in this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.